I came to the sanctuary so that I could just do a little bit of talking to you about some ideas around live streaming. As many of you know, and you may have read my book, Think Like a Filmmaker, there are lots of things that I've considered about how it is that we offer the word through media. Now, Think Like a Filmmaker is not about making films, right? So that's not it's about applying the techniques of filmmaking to worship design and to worship leadership. But a lot of those will help you as you think about engaging people in a live stream situation. So we're just gonna brainstorm. This is off the top of my head. I didn't really plan on doing this today, so I haven't made, nice, neat little notes, but I'm just gonna do some things off the top of my head. So, one of the things I want to say to you is that some of you may be live streaming and still have people in the pews, right? So I'm in an empty sanctuary right now, but it may be that you are just live streaming because there are some folks who are higher risk who decide not to come to church, and you don't want them to be excluded, which is an awesome thing to do. So number one, we want to make sure that they have the information and have the help that they need, perhaps to get on, and so making it as simple as possible with a click. Sometimes if folks are not on social media like Facebook Live, you might want to use YouTube live stream, because then you just have a link that you would send to people and they would just click it and they would be right there. So that could be true of Facebook as well. The whole point of this is try it, and this is why I just decided to drop everything and do this right now, is because it's Wednesday and you have time to try things out, okay? So try it out. Now, I'm on my phone, but I think that what you want to do is you want to make sure you have multiple technological devices so that you can do several things. So one would be having a phone or a camera, and some of you already have a live stream capability, but a phone is your, if nothing else, you can use your phone, and it's really pretty simple to do this, right? Those of you who've done live streaming from Facebook Live or YouTube, is the same way. You download the YouTube app to your phone, and you have to set up your own channel. That's super easy, and you should have one anyway as a church where you can post things. So set up your YouTube channel, and then there is a live option. You can do it right from your phone. You just click it, and it goes, and it starts to go. Now, all right, so one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is if you're doing a live stream and nobody's at your church, but you've gathered up some people, maybe a few people, and you've gathered up, maybe some of your readers and leaders have come, your musicians have come, and a pastor or preacher has come. What I want you to think about is the point of view of the viewer on the screen. So what we're not going to do is just set up the camera and in a wide shot and pretend that people are there and you're just doing worship. You're doing pretend worship. I think it's important to just be real and talk right into the camera sometimes. It also allows you to have what's called POV, point of view, right? POV shots. So let's imagine that we go through our script. Let me turn this around. I kind of set some things up here. We go through our script. Here's some of you are doing entering the story. So let's say you're getting ready for Sunday and you've got your script. Now what you might do is go through it and say, what would be the best place to do this from, right? So the first one, we continue on our journey through Lent as we step inside the story of a teacher who turned the world upside down. All right, so you're referring to Lent. You might decide that you want to do that standing by the cross, right? So you're going to figure out, this shot, let's start with it here. Now, if you're the person leading, I'm the only one here in the sanctuary. Nobody's helping me. So I would have somebody else holding the phone, right? Hold the phone as I did the leader part. But I might stand there and I might decide that that's where I'm going to do this first part. I'm going to talk right into the camera. Now, I keep doing this. I keep looking at what I'm on the screen, so I can see where I'm pointing the camera, but that makes my eyes look in a different place. So just be mindful of where the camera actually is, where you're looking, so you can talk right to people. Okay, so like this rather than like this. Okay, you get this. This is basic stuff, but maybe not so basic for some. All right, so let's say then that you're going through your script, and it's, the theme song starts. And it may be that you decide that maybe what you'd like to do. So I know some of you who are doing this series have this awesome thing where you have a frame around your entrance, right? You have like an artist, an art frame. And so you might decide, okay, let's revisit this. Maybe you do that introduction. We continue our series on Lent, and you got this point of view. And then as the soloist begins to sing, maybe you walk through that frame, that doorway. Enter the story, right? So you're gonna help people have the point of view. And actually it's a point of view they don't normally get to have because they're not the soloist singing and walking up the aisle and maybe you have the acolyte. Maybe you're following the acolyte, right? Who's carrying the light up. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to just get creative with this and think of, at every point in the service, what might be your camera shot. That would be a lot of fun to do. Now, this is a lot more detailed than you might want to do, but there might be actually some youth in your church who would love to do this as a project, who would love to begin to think about camera shots, right? This could be a media project for school, especially if they're not going to school during the week. At any rate, we hope it doesn't come to this, but the truth is that we have to think about contingency plans and caring for each other and making sure that we're not putting people at risk. So we might as well think about this. So another example would be during prayer. We don't always have to have the talking head. The truth is, when we're sitting in the sanctuary, out there in the pews, we don't always look at the person praying during prayer, right? So this is something that I say to people. I do a lot of national, international conferences where I'm doing worship, and there's camera teams, and it's being live streamed. And so one of the things that I do with my scripts is I do exactly what I'm telling you. I'm saying, here's some possible point of view shots that would enhance what's going on, rather than just, random shots of the crowd or keeping it on the talking head, which is what a lot of AV companies tend to do at these conferences. But actually the images and the words, our eyes, when we're sitting out there, our eyes go in different places. So during prayer, perhaps, maybe what you do, or let's say when you would normally light the candles, I'm just going to do this. Let me turn this around again. I'm going to do this with their candles here. You might ask people at home to have a candle ready, and then as you're lighting the candle, invite them to light the candle. So do something interactive where people at home feel like they're part of the ritual action, right? And so, that might be something that you do. You could, during prayer, you could focus then. Sorry, I'm going to make you dizzy. That's another point I want to make, is don't move around too much, because people will get dizzy. But you could just focus on that. Or let me get a better angle. Look, there's the cross there we go. Now we're getting good. Okay, there it is. Right, so you might find a spot that you want to have the live stream on, your camera on, during the prayer. That would be a beautiful place that would center us, right? So just don't think that you have to have talking heads all the time. So another spot could be during reading the scripture. You might have a little setup like this. Now, I said I was going to talk about both filming it while there's still people in the space. Now, you're not going to be perhaps doing this, having somebody walk around, although let me say, all right, let's just talk about this. I don't think we should be afraid of actually having somebody, like during prayer, take the camera that is live streaming it and coming up and focusing on the candle. just let people know who are there that we're taping this for those who feel most vulnerable, whose immune systems are compromised. It's not a good idea for them to come to church, but we don't want to exclude them. And so we are live streaming it. We're Facebook living it, or we're YouTube live streaming it. And so-and-so is going to be doing that for us, and we're very grateful. And they may be walking up and to get a shot of the candle so that people at home can be focusing on the light as we light the candle. And I actually think that seeing that person walking around occasionally, you wouldn't want to do it as much as you would if there's nobody in the space. But I think we shouldn't be afraid of that, because I think that would actually connect people in the pews with the people at home, just imagining them being with us, right? So I wouldn't be afraid of that. I would do a lot less of that if people are in the space, but if people are not in the space and you just have leaders, there's all kinds of things that you can do. And then when it's time for the sermon, let's say, I might set up a stool where I can sit and the camera can get a shot kind of like this, or with the frame in the background if you're doing my entering the story, or get a shot of the Bible as the scripture reading is being done. So in some ways, it's kind of like what I do when I create slide backgrounds for screens. When I'm doing conferences or even local church worship, I don't like to use canned backgrounds. I like to take pictures in the space and then I might take this picture right here. Lovely. And I might I might put the word scripture on it and use it as a slide on my screens if I'm using projection technology. In worship. And so in essence, that's kind of what you're doing, is you're dreaming up what are the beautiful ways that we can bring the story alive. And the reason why I'm doing this is not just so that you can get fancy or lots of bells and whistles, but the truth is, and this is what I teach about sensory-rich worship, and that is the more we're drawn in through an experience, which includes the visuals, it includes movement, it includes the point of view, it includes an artful sense of the story. The more we do that, the more engaged we are, right? The more we feel like we're there. I have done worship on live stream a lot. I've done it with goggles and virtual reality. I have done it over the phone. So that's another thing. If you have a lot of people that are not going to be able to just click and open up a live stream, do it over the phone. I've done freeconferencepro.com is a wonderful free service. You sign up for an account. You have a phone number that you send out with a meeting number, and as many people as you want to can join that. You mute them all except for yourself, except for when you want people to speak, so the background noise is kind of, controlled. But that's I've led lots of worship that way. I've done things when it's just, audio, like the phone, where I just describe, I'm lighting a candle right now. So, I might light my own candle. And as I'm doing that, I would just say, if you've got a candle nearby, go ahead and light that. Or if you have a picture of a candle, or whatever it is, always trying to draw people in. While I'm on this shot, let's just imagine that worst comes to worst, and you don't even want to come to the church to do this. You're going to do this at home. And it may even be that you don't have Wi-Fi at the church. That could totally be it, right? Or you don't have a strong enough signal. Because I'm actually not on great Wi-Fi here, but the signal for my phone is strong enough, so that works. But let's just imagine that you're doing this at home where you do have Wi-Fi, you have more control. You might set up a little thing like this, right? Create a little space, a little visual installation in your space so that you can actually, so let's say you're going to do it live stream with video. You might set it up so that it's like this, and this is in the background, and you're able to talk to people and have a nice background like this. So think about bringing stuff from the church to your house that would make people feel like they're in their sanctuary. Bring one of the candles. These candles are a little bit intense to take to my house, although I would try it. I would totally try it. So it's about crossing those boundaries. This is what media does for us. This is what live stream does for us. And it means that we can bring a certain space into another space. So think about how you can do that. How can you bring your space into other people's spaces? Okay. All right, so some other things that you might need. I have my iPad here because one of the things that you could do, for those of you entering the story and we're using artwork, you might have the artwork on the iPad and have it sitting there, and so that you could get a good shot of that. Also think about sending an email image out to people of the artwork so they can be looking at it. Or here I have it set up. Here's this week's painting, and I have it set up on my computer separately. Now, I also have at my computer this little speaker, because when you are using your camera for the live stream, you can't send other audio out. And so what that means is if you have a recording, let's say you're going to play Chuck Bell's recording of the theme song, because you're doing this from home, or you don't have the musicians to do it, you might use the recording, but you couldn't play that on your phone and do the live streaming at the same time. So I just kind of set up my computer where I would play it off of into the speaker, the little speaker, and then somebody would hit play on that. So, for some of you, this is really super basic, but just trying to give you some ideas so that then you can begin to talk about your situation and what might work best for you. My dear friend Karen Clark-Rustine, I see that you're on, and she has some awesome ideas for other things. She's going to actually not only Facebook Live it, but because her community, there may be quite a lot of people actually who need to be careful and not come and be in spaces with lots of people. She's going to actually send out the script, and that is fine with me as well. So, seeing the script actually gives you the rubrics, and they might even, they've been to church for a couple of weeks. It might even invite them to imagine what's going on in the space, even if they can't get on live stream. Allison, thank you for the reminder to talk about permissions. I talked earlier about the fact that any of our Worship Design Studio materials, I'm giving you permission to use those in whatever way you need to. I would love for you to put worshipdesignstudio.com/series, just so people can get back to the original source. Now, the other music. Here's a couple of things. One is, there are a couple, if you're entering the story, or any of my series, there's often refrains or things that I use that are from the public domain. I try to use some familiar things, so that would be true of this series if you're using Turn Your Eyes Upon Jesus, right? So look in your hymnal, see what's in the public domain, and that is, you don't have to worry about that. If you have some music that you've planned and you're going to go completely live stream, or just partially live stream, you want to be sure that you're looking at those and seeing if they're public domain. If they're not, then you need to care for permissions about that. Live stream permissions, live stream licenses are different than the ones that you just have for, say, one license or CCLI. Now, I don't know if license companies are making any exceptions for right now. I can't speak to that. There are ways to listen to music. So let's say that you have an anthem that your choir was going to do, and they're not going to do it now. You can, in my scripts, the anthems that I suggested, I have the links where you can go listen to where it's already on the internet by the publisher. So that would be another way for people to actually hear the music is to provide that link so that they can hear it on their computer. There's also, Hymnary has some audio of hymns. You can search YouTube for, perhaps people have already done that work, but the truth is that there's a lot of things out there. We can't know what has the right permissions or not, so just be careful and make sure that you are, in every case, giving links to go back to the origins of where that music came from. So it's kind of a messy time, right? There's a lot of churches that live stream without thinking about permissions, and that's not the right thing to do. But I also think that we can offer our folks music and that kind of thing, and give the right permissions, seek the right permissions, go to CCLI or One License and see what their live streaming permissions are, and see what maybe they're doing. I mean, I haven't gone to their pages, but maybe they have some special note there or something. I don't know. It could be. Maybe I'll send them an email after this and see if they would. So let's see, what else? I was talking about my friend Karen, who is going to be sending out the scripts, but also she had a couple of other great ideas, and that is, besides their live streaming, besides their, this is a sweet little sanctuary. I'm just going to give you a little tour here. Great stained glass. That's something that I would focus on that. The stained glass here is in the back of the sanctuary. You never see it unless you're turned around and facing back. So it might be cool to do a shot like this, something people rarely get to see. But she's also talking about good old-fashioned phone trees, right? When we used to have prayer chains and phone trees. But upping our communication with folks, upping the connection, because isolation will be the worst part of this virus, right? And so let's get creative about it. Let's create these ways. Let's reclaim some of these ways to connect with each other and to stay connected. If you're doing one of my series, you could take the prayers that I've written, and you could send those out, or you could post them. We come here to encounter the teachings of Jesus. Many wanted to destroy him for these teachings, and sometimes we too find that his words challenge us, calling us to more than we think we can be or do. Forgive us, God. Let us be shaped into new people, made in the mold of justice, not the stamp of Caesar's coin. You entered our story through Jesus. Now help us enter fully into the story of your kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. And it could be that you do something creative. If your folks get used to this, it might be interesting to get folks to be uploading like photos that remind them of this. Or, people can be in the chat. You can have even more interactive kinds of sermons. Ask a question. On Facebook, if you're on your computer, if you're using your computer at home on Facebook Live, I was doing this earlier, I was checking it out. You can actually set up some polls. So you could say, what would you have done if you were in the crowd when Jesus talked about two sides of the coin? Would you have stayed or would you have gone? Would you have thought he was really cool, or would you have thought, oh my gosh? There's just a lot of different things that you can do and get people interacting. So think about all of those different ways. We have the technology these days. All right. I am praying for each and every one of you and the decisions that you're making and whatever you're facing. I hope that you will enter the story deeply. So there's a lot of stories of fear, stories of disbelief, we don't know what to believe, right? It's hard to trust. The trust for news sources has eroded these days, and so it's hard to know what to believe. But what we do want to do is protect those who are the most susceptible, and so we err on the side of caution. So whatever you're going to do, friends, blessings on you, and May you continue to think about ways that you can offer meaning and connection to all the people who so dearly need it.